we have our next session, and Nandini she has a hard stop at 5:30, so I thought we'd make the most of time that we have in our hands. So just a quick intro. She's a partner with the dispute resolution practice group in the Kolkata office of Khaitan and Company. And she has vast experience in commercial, environment, intellectual property, real estate, and family disputes and litigation. She has, of course, appeared at every stage and level of the Indian judicial system, including the Supreme Court, High Courts, NCLT, NGT, and other fora, having worked extensively with two chartered high courts, in fact. So she began her career in Bombay and then moved to Calcutta. She is quite thorough with the nuances of litigation. So we'll just wait for her. I have texted her that the session is officially begun now.
Hi, Anand.
Hi, I just sort of formally, read out your bio, but there's one thing which I did not tell them, which is something I wanted to say after you come in to the meeting. That you are one of the first people to really tell me when I discussed this whole idea about the fellowship and recruiting students, that this is a good initiative, and that in whatever way you could support this, you will. And thank you so much for being present today to speak to our fellows. I hope uh, we can make the most of this 1 hour that you've given
Happy
us.
to everybody today, and I hope everybody is well and taking care.
So Nandini, this is just a very informal interaction because that's what you preferred over presenting, a slide or PPTs.
Absolutely. Everybody's bored of webinars, I think.
Yeah, sure.
I am definitely tired of them. So
Yeah.
I think
So
this works out better. Please feel free to interject, talk. It's just so much nicer.
sure. In fact, that's what I told them as well, to sort of keep their questions ready and sort of. But I'll just begin the conversation just so that we can set it. We sort of spoke about this over the phone, that you began your career in Bombay and then you sort of have now shifted base. So could you tell us a little bit about your journey, both of course as a law student and then how you sort of transitioned into a disputes career?
See, I do. Unlike all of you guys, I don't have much to talk about as a law student because when when I started off, it was 1999, and NUJS hadn't even been set up. So we're talking that long back. And so I had joined Khaitan as an intern, and what was the expectation was that you would come, work the whole day, and attend morning classes. And I really wasn't a morning person. So we do the enough to get the attendance through and work throughout the day. I just joined when we decided to open the Bombay office, and Calcutta had been facing a lot of decline in terms of commercial activity, and so we really saw the Bombay office as having a hopefully a good future. So that's how I shifted to Bombay while I was still studying law, and I would keep going back and forth for the attendance and exams. So I can't give you too many law student stories, but definitely I had an internship as a full-time advocate almost for good 3-4 years. So that's something and when you're starting a law firm, and I was the intern, so I was also the glorified I would do all the librarians work and the clerks work and everything. So that sort of really helped me to understand that how what goes into running a law firm behind the scenes and how much hard work it is. In 2004, when I graduated, I sort of decided to stay on with Bombay and, continued. And I started doing litigation at that point. And that's how my journey really started. I did litigation in Bombay for 6 years, and then thought that, maybe I should do an LLM. Finished my LLM, and then instead of going back to Bombay for some strange reason, I came back to Calcutta, which is my hometown, and I'm now a partner with the Khaitan Calcutta office and have a team running. I mean, a team for dispute resolution. I work with a whole set of partners. We're a team of, I think, 70 lawyers in Calcutta, and there are 5 or 6 dispute teams, and I'm partner one of them.
So Nandini, did you ever feel like litigation is just getting too overwhelming or something, and that you would like to try out transactional work? Has that phase ever happened in your career?
So the interesting thing is that I started out as wanting to do corporate law, but you really need to have some sort of understanding of debit and credit, which I don't. I must be absolutely upfront. Most lawyers become lawyers because they don't want to deal with mathematics, and that was my reason. And then when I started doing corporate law, I realized that you need to know debit, credit, you need to know a little bit of understanding of finance, and just have a basic commercial sense, which I really liked. So I thought litigation's better off. But I don't think litigation's overwhelming, Anand. Anybody who says that hasn't really tried litigation, or maybe didn't like how the judicial courts function, perhaps, because a lot of factors are out of your hand when you do litigation, as in when a matter will come up, or today will you get to argue, or will you be stuck between courts, or will the judge suddenly not turn up, or your counsel doesn't turn up. So it's a lot of factors which are unpredictable, which is relatively a lot less in the corporate practice or the transactional practice. So to that extent, I would say the difference is unpredictability and versus predictability. But if you can like sort of work around that, I think litigation is a fabulous place to be. It teaches, it gives you it's never boring, let me tell you that. You get to do something different every single day. My Just this week, we had 2 new matters come in. One was relating to default of a bank guarantee, and the other one was an environmental issue. So there's always something which is keeping you learning something new, keeping your interest alive. So I think it's a very, very vibrant place, if I may call it that.
Right. And you are primarily a generalist in some sense, right? I mean, you're not.
So litigation in India is till date, I would say, largely a generalist practice, if you want to call it that. There is very little scope for specialization. I mean, of course, you'll have the securities lawyer doing securities SAT work, or there will be some people who will just now, concentrate their work in the NCLT area, which is insolvency and company law to some extent, and maybe some amount of competition law. But I would say 90 to 95% of the people who practice litigation are generalists.
And you did speak about this whole, commercial sense, right, which in many ways is essential for a corporate lawyer, and I guess even for a litigator. But it may be playing out very differently, I guess.
Yeah. So, litigator, you see, you have to understand that commercial sense is very different in the two contexts, as you said. When you're doing a transactional thing, it's really about who's getting the better deal. Like you're entering into a transaction, who's getting more money, like when the deal's being made, or how the money has to be structured, or how the tax stuff has to be done. So it's a lot of different considerations that go in. These things have already been worked out by the time they come to litigation. It's basically now a context of how to interpret the contract to your client's, favor in the court, that this is how it was meant to be. And that's a very different sort of commercial sense. I wouldn't call it similar to the one you need for the transactional side. This is more how to think on your feet, because the judge can ask you anything. This is more about yes, you could still have some number issues, because if the other side's trying to put a fast one over you in court, in terms of trying to say, oh no, this is the amount that should be paid out in interest and penalties, and you do quick calculations. So that to that extent it may be relevant, but otherwise, as a litigating lawyer, there's a completely different skill set, I feel, which is needed in the commercial sensibilities.
Right. Harsh has put up an interesting question in the chat window. He would
Oh,
like to know, yeah.
you want me to see it?
Yeah, I know, I can read it out. He wants to just know how a disputes team at a full service firm like Khaitan and Company functions or is structured.
Do you want to just like maybe narrow that question a little bit? I mean, in what context are you asking that?
Ma'am, I'm asking so as to like, does the disputes team at a full service law firm really go to court or do or what? How does that work? Like, do you hire an outside counsel?
Yeah, so I'll give you an idea of how litigation works. So, in litigation, Bombay and Calcutta have a very similar way of practicing litigation. In the High Court, at least, you still have a very sort of council based practice in both these cities. There is a lot of value to be added by taking an external arguing counsel who's regularly in court, at least for the high value matters, which is what bigger law firms usually see. The trend is changing, especially in arbitration. Delhi, Chennai, Karnataka, Bangalore, all of these places, I think, are a mixed bag. You will see the same person filing the wakalatnama as the person who's arguing the matter a lot more than in Calcutta and Bombay. Even the higher level litigation or the high value litigation, you still have the counsel practice system where you engage counsels for the arguments in the high court level. But arbitration of that again is changing even for the higher value transactions for firms all over in the cities. One thing I will say in this, that no matter if it's an arbitration or it's a litigation in a district court or a high court or a supreme court, we are always there. It's not left to somebody to just do something and call back and report to us, because we are charging the client for our presence and for our supervision and for our inputs. High courts and Supreme Court, definitely we are always there. District courts, if we know that there is going to be a date or there's going to be an adjournment or there's just a filing, then we may not go, and that's purely to save the clients money. But otherwise, for every single thing we are there. In fact, I always say this: litigation is teamwork. You're as strong as your weakest link, and I'm in court 5 days a week, at least 4 days a week, if not all five. And if the matter starts at 11 o'clock, I'm there at 10:45. So I don't think, it's a law firm issue in that sense. Most lawyers are going to be in court if their matter is there, especially if they're expecting arguments.
Nandini, I mean, this is an unusual scenario where there are many questions and I can see many hands raised already. So to make my job easier, Himeli, then next is Priyal, Luvita after that, and then Brinda. So that's the order for now. Guys,
Sorry.
please go ahead.
Let me just check it out. I only see one question though.
No, so they have raised their hands. So Himeli, you can go up.
I can't see it actually. There are too many screens. There are too many.
I'll moderate it. You don't need to worry, Nandini, about all that.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi ma'am, this is Himeli. So I thought you would be the best person to answer this question since you made a transition from Bombay to Calcutta. Do you think like the location where you're practicing really matters, if not just for litigation, but for like commercial practice too? Because last year I made the choice to intern in the Calcutta office under Devidas Banerjee sir, and everybody else was like, you wanting to transfer to Calcutta from Bombay, and it's a very stupid decision. But how much do you think? But it turned out to be the most like the best internship experience for me, be it work-wise or like just the environment that I was in. So what do you think, like does location really matter when you're working?
Yes, it does. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The matters you're going to be exposed to will be different in different cities. Let's put it this way. In Calcutta, you will not have exposure to a lot of IP matters. You will not have exposure to very high-end commercial value matters. You will have your commercial matters. I'm doing some great work in the NCLT, in the sense that we have some great, interesting matters out of NCLT. out of High Court, which we just did a matter which went to Supreme Court on Section 11 of the Arbitration Act, and it sort of expanded the scope of the entire law, I would say. So you do get your, these kind of interesting cases, but these are not the regular, bread and butter. You will, the high value litigations are out of Bombay and Delhi. There's no two ways out of it. Two ways. I would say the bulk.
Yeah.
And you will get interesting matters no matter which city you are in. So that doesn't matter. If you're good and you're in a smaller city or in a city like Calcutta, you will rise faster to the top of the ladder because talent is a little restricted because most people sort of tend to leave.
Yeah.
So it's going to be sort of a like a pro and con balance. Corporate practice, if you're good, then you will definitely rise the ladder faster in a smaller city because there's not that much exposure or talent for these kind of matters. So suppose if you've done work in a law firm in Bombay and you come back to Calcutta, so you bring all of that experience with you. So you're obviously going to maybe stand out in those terms. And let me tell you, let me give you an example. Mr. S.N. Mukherjee, senior advocate Mr. S.N. Mukherjee is a senior advocate based out of Calcutta High Court, but he is the #1 choice for all company matters in NCLAT, PLT across the country. So if you're really that good, it doesn't matter where you will be based out of, work will come to you. And for that, I think one tip that is perhaps useful is that then try and be a specialist, because then it doesn't matter where you're based out of, because if you're that good, everybody will kind of come to you where you are. It doesn't matter where you are based out of.
Yeah.
But you also need exposure to that kind of work to be that good in it. So I would say that try and work for a little bit outside, maybe, if you wanna build that little bit of experience or good work, and then come back. And if you're starting off here, that's also no problem. But just make sure that you're getting visible outside for your knowledge in terms of writing and being published, in terms of teaching, in terms of trying to do outstation matters as much as you can and arguing it yourself to the extent you can, because that's how your name really will spread.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah, Nandini, if I could just add, I started my career with Mr. Datar. So did Chitra, who's part of our faculty here. And one thing about him that I did notice was, like Mr. Mukherjee, he really sort of did the second approach, right, which is to go deep into tax and build out a practice. So it was a more pan-India kind of practice, because there's the tribunals and then there's the same tribunal cases go and appeal to the high court there, right? So you sort of build that, but then it takes I think the orientation to practice that requires is a little different. Like you said, it's a lot of focus around writing, because he continues to, I think, write a lot. And then
that's what I mean, that if you want to be in a city which is not doing the bulk of commercial work or the bulk of the high value practice, and you really want to be still in a particular city, then you have to get visible around a particular band of knowledge so that people come to you. And that will happen with concerted efforts throughout, just in that one area. But then it's a conscious decision to kind of have one specialist knowledge base. So like Mr. Mukherjee, for example, like Mr. Datar, he did company law board matters, after matters, and he did so well in Calcutta that, those matters, when they were taken into appeal, people saw that he was great in the appeals in Supreme Court and the company law appellate boards. So he started getting outside briefs, and, so that's how it works. I mean, your work will speak for itself. I don't think end of the day, if you're good, the city will make that much of a difference. Yes, it makes a little difference in the beginning to get that experience. But even if you start out in a city like Calcutta or Bangalore or anywhere, I think if you can maintain visibility, you'll be fine.
Priyan?
Hello, ma'am. So
I can't see.
I'm
Yeah.
here. Yeah. Hi. So my question was about exposure for juniors who want to enter litigation. So I've been just working a year. I'm very new to this, but the general perception around here in Gujarat, at least, is that if you want to truly get into litigation and get the maximum exposure in the initial years, then you better join a lawyer or a practicing advocate or maybe a senior counsel, as opposed to joining a full service law firm or joining a disputes team, because you get to appear before the court and you have access to court in a much easier way as opposed to people who work in a law firm. So is that true, or is that just
I think that's a very, very personal experience. There is absolutely, please take it from me. I have, like, we've had enough, interns and juniors coming under us in in my last 16 years of practice that I've seen. And you will have interns who have come and told us that we loved our internship and we hated the internship under a council. And, then we have interns telling us that we hated a law firm internship and a council internship was great. It actually solely depends on how lucky you get with the person who you're working with. If that person is going to give you work, or if you take initiative and show that you are willing to learn, it doesn't matter where you are. I'm just going to backtrack a little bit out here, Priyal, because I'll tell you why this is important. I think and don't take it the other way, because I'm just genuinely trying to make a point here. A lot of interns, when they come, they feel that they'll be given very high level responsibility. Even when the first year associates come, they think they'll be given a lot of high level responsibility, and that's really not the case. And that sort of makes them a little disillusioned, if I may say so. And you start feeling that I'm not being given work which is worthwhile. Let me tell you, my first job as the intern one day was to file like an entire set of documents in a file. I had never done that. So I didn't know that an A4 paper has to be put into half and punched from the middle to make it equal. So I did it upar niche, the entire, and I tabbed it like wherever I had to. It was very untidy, but I didn't know that. I hadn't seen anything better. And my partner just threw my file on my face, that what is this, right? Because it's going to take him that much more time to keep sifting, because it's so untidily done. So from what I learned from that was that ease of working is as important as the content. If you're if you do your brief well, right, the first thing it shows is that you're detailed oriented and that you like doing your work well. And trust me, every person picks up on that. So even if you're given a work which is just simply opening a envelope, if you cut off the receipt stamp, we will not be able to prove in court that when was the envelope received. This is 4 years back. I was a partner in the firm and I had to get a document adjudicated in a stamp office. And nobody was free. And I would go to the stamp office every single day myself, sit in water swamped areas. And another senior partner told me that, listen, this is not your job. Why don't you just send a junior? And I said, I'm not charging the client any different. It would be the same, but I need to get the work done. And so what I'm trying to say is that no work is small. And if you do each work properly with interest, it kind of shows to the person that you are willing to take responsibility. And that itself, makes the other person sort of want to give you more work, because everybody is overworked and they are wanting to rely on someone to do something well. So, there were 2 interns who came to us one associate and one intern who came to me for a matter last year. The first year associate, who was an LLB graduate, sort of photocopied an entire brief. And I asked that associate that, have you done everything properly? Did you see the brief? Has it been photocopied properly? Has it been paginated properly? I'm guessing that person must have done it, but it wasn't done well. Same thing, an intern, 3rd year law, who had done the brief really well, paginated everything. Everything was perfect. Guess who got more work next day? It wasn't an issue of that person being a lawyer and that person being an intern. It just showed that that person took care. And I've said this very often in a lot of places, that if your brief is not right, and it doesn't match what you filed in court, it has to be the same brief for your counsel, whoever's arguing it, whether it's you or an external counsel, the judge, and the lowest person in the seniority level. You will have a problem and your matter will get thrown out. So your brief has to be perfect, and like that's the most important thing. And most people complain we've been given Xeroxing to do. I still do it. I still go to the photocopy room to check if my brief has come out perfectly. I admit I do it less now, but I still do it. So my most important, like sort of, if you want to call it advice, is always that no job is small. Everything is important when you go to court. So it doesn't matter, to circle back to your question, who you are going, whether it's a law firm or a counsel or anything. If you are going to work well with what you do, trust me, the person, and take initiative, right? It's not ki meko kuch diya nahi to maine kuch kiya nahi. You have to take initiative. If you're interning with a counsel, ask him which matters is he working on. He's not told you to do anything. He just will read the brief. But why don't you just go ahead and make the list of dates? Figure out what the judgments are and give it to him, right? He's not asked you for these things, but if you have these things ready, he's going to rely on you for that then. And that's how you will get your first brief. And, I was working with Mr. Madan in a very important matter. Mr. Dinyar Madan is a senior counsel. And we were on a strict budget. We had no intention of briefing any juniors. It was him and me. His chamber junior was on the mandate, was helping him in the matter. And on his own, he would make a list of dates out for us, a list of judgments out for us with summaries and everything without being asked. No one had told him to do any of this. And he would just send it out to us, right? I felt that we were not being fair by not briefing him. So we ended up briefing him in the end because he did such a proactive thing. So it's basically what really counts, no matter where you are, is proactiveness and, just taking responsibility of doing it well. It can be the simplest job of cutting an envelope, but it's important. So, wherever you are, if you do both these things, I think you'll manage. Of course, you can have bad luck anywhere, but by and large, I think these two are your guiding factors for any internship or any new job.
Thank you.
I hope that helps.
It does.
And to Chitra's point about Sudipto, yes, absolutely. Sudipto and Gopal are both, Gopal is Mr. S.N. Mukherjee's Dak Naam, as we call it in Bengal. They too really are the masters of company law. And I always give the examples to say that the city doesn't matter.
Nurita, would you like to?
Hello, ma'am. I'm sorry, I can't start my video. I'm facing some bandwidth issue. So my question is as regards to this new wave of ODR systems in India, these ODR startups. I mean, I alone have attended like 3 or 4 sessions in this quarantine where they have tried to, they try to recruit all these people to become their case managers at first, and then they move to give them to the title of a mediator. So, what is your view of this ODR system? Like when any person without any sufficient experience in mediation is given the title of a case manager and then pushed to a mediator, don't you think, I mean, if they can't settle the matter at first, it is going to go to court. So don't you think it's a waste of time at times?
You're talking about ODR in terms of online dispute resolution or something else?
So ODR startups, I don't really want to name them, but there are quite a few that have been popularized over this the past 9 months. So as regards to them.
See, I haven't had any experience with them personally in any matter. my exposure to ODRs has been more with the startups coming to us for, holding all of our arbitrations on that platform. So I have no idea in terms of them wanting to be case managers and mediators at the same time. I can answer your question regarding mediation separately if you want, but I don't have the experience, or I haven't really done ODR with mediation mixed up to be able to, give you any real feedback on this.
Oh, okay, all right. Thank you.
Ishita, would you like to go next?
But if you, if you can just send me your email address, or you can just, I can
Good
just
evening, ma'am.
and get back to Anant on your question from people who might know. I hope that will help
Yes,
out.
yes, of course. Yes. Thank you.
Sorry, I interrupted somebody, I think.
No, I think
Ma'am, if I may go ahead. Okay, so good evening, ma'am. So I'm asking this question in the context of something you mentioned, which is that there is much less IP matters in Calcutta per se. So if as somebody who wants to stay in Calcutta, like I'm currently a resident of Calcutta, and if I want to continue practicing in Calcutta, and I want to practice not only in IP matters but also in TMT in general, I'm just wondering if there are, like firms or organizations, or even within Khaitan, are there dedicated teams that work in TMT? Or if I say want to join Khaitan Calcutta in some capacity, then like how does the work get divided for TMT, or does it get like shuttled to other offices in Khaitan? I don't know if I've been able to explain it.
No, I get your question. So this is, firstly, let me answer your question on work in terms of TMT and IP practice. There is very little good IP litigation in Calcutta. Even the IP prosecution work, which basically means registration of trademark kind of stuff, is, I would say, on the lower side. You do have one or two law firms based out of Calcutta which do only registration work. But definitely, I would say that if you're interested purely in IP, then Calcutta, you would find it a little difficult. In fact, let me share this with you that I was interested in IP to a large extent. Most of my work in Bombay, when I practiced, there was IP litigation for some big clients. And when I came back to Calcutta, and my one of my concentrations at Columbia was IP. But when I came back to Calcutta, I hardly did one or two matters in total in the last 9 years. So definitely, Calcutta is not the buzz place for IP litigation, and prosecutions also on the lower side. Prosecutions there more, I would think, than litigation for sure. TMT practice, we did not have anybody based out in Calcutta. Our TMT practice, people were based in Bombay and Delhi, if I'm not wrong. But what's thing is that because of the lockdown and because of the pandemic, we are all working from home now. And, we anyways, as a firm, believed in working across offices even before the pandemic. It didn't matter where. So we would have these desks, right? The hospitality desk, which would mean the hotel industry. We would have the environmental law desk. We would have a pharma desk and all of that. And you would have lawyers from all four offices in those, on those desks. So we did have that system earlier also, but there weren't that many people from Calcutta on any TMT desk or any pharma desk, because all of this was all again coming from Bombay and Delhi. But I think with this work from home concept really gaining currency, I think it won't really matter as much going forward where you're based out of. We are still to see people moving back to Calcutta or other cities once they are in Bombay and Delhi, to kind of say that, okay, listen, I'm moving back to Cal, but I would love to be still love to be a part of the TMT practice. But I think that is a reality that's possible. And so if you are a person who is interested in TMT and wants to join the Calcutta office, which already has a practice, I don't rule it out anymore. I would have 1 year back, if you had asked me, I would have said it would be better if you go to Bombay, Delhi, but I don't rule it out anymore. to be based out of Delhi or Calcutta or Bangalore office for that.
Brinda?
Yes. Hi, good evening, ma'am. Just two questions, summing up quick. First was it's just about the culture of a law firm. To be very honest, I've worked in a law firm for a year and then I worked with the council. And as you said, it's very subjective. I agree. But what are your views as to the culture and especially the mental health taken care of employees in firms? Specifically of women, because not a lot of women are pushed ahead in litigation, and I have heard senior lawyers come and tell me, why do you want to even try counsel practice, or why do you even want to do litigation, it's difficult for a woman. So A would be culture of a firm, B the mental health, and C, as a woman, what do you think of litigation? Yeah, thank you.
So you asked about three things, right? The culture of the law firm. So can you just like tell me like?
Sorry. Yes. One was about the culture, as in just about how supportive the group is about the people around the employees. Two was the mental health of the employees and how it's to be taken care of. And three was women in litigation, and what kind of scope do you think, as your own experience in litigation, is with women in practice? Yeah, that's it.
See, Brinda, I had written an article in 2018, I think, on women in law firms. It was for the Indian Advocate, and then it was republished by the Bar and Bench. It has some statistics. I would think, it may be interesting if you're genuinely interested in this area to go back and have a look at that. What I will tell you is that Harvard in 2016 had more law students who were women than men. National law schools are equaling the number of men and women now in India. So, when that many women come in, the environment has to change. You don't have there's not going to be left a choice, because there was a gender issue, because then there weren't that many women, and since the number was small, their issues were not issue enough to be taken seriously. So with the number game changing, that I think itself is going to be a game changer. The difference is that it's still happening now. So you're seeing more women in the junior associate level. You will see a smaller percentage in the partner level and the senior management partner level. But that will change with time. 101%, you can take that in writing from me, simply because the numbers are going up. You don't have a choice. When I went to law school, I was like in a class of maybe 70 or 80 people, there were 5 girls, right? So how many of those 5 went on to do law seriously and continued after kids, right? So it's a number game, end of the day. So and this I'm speaking generally. So everywhere this change is going to come, not just law firms. It's going to come in courts, it's going to come in council chambers, it's going to come in law firms, in companies for general counsel practice and all of that. As far as the culture of law firms go, yes, it is a competitive culture. There's no two ways about it. I don't want to say anything otherwise. But I have no exposure to any other law firm's culture, so I can only speak about where I have been working. I think we have one of the lowest attrition rates. You will have people saying good things about my firm. You'll have people saying bad things about the firm. Again, it's subjective. As a culture, what we try and do is that we call it the KCO family. So we try and keep that sense going. We have systems in place. We have buddy systems. We have mentoring systems. We have a online health helpline which we've tied up with people. We have creches we've tied up with. There's a whole lot of things that we are trying to do, which would go a long way in helping everyone across genders and everyone. We have a whole LGBT, initiative. Well, I won't even call it an initiative. It's a part of what we are looking at, that everybody is, it's a meritocracy driven culture. I think the person in our firm, there are two litigation partners in my firm who are doing the best today. One is Mr. Kapoor in Delhi, and the other is Ms. Vanita Bhargav, and she's a woman with 2 kids, and she argues herself in Supreme Court. Her husband is also a senior partner in the firm, but it's she who, it really leads the matters. And what an outstanding litigator. I don't think it's ever been an issue that she's a woman. So I think as a culture, if you want to look at it from a gender diversity perspective, the bigger law firms at least are very, very supportive. The idea is to, provide all kinds of, support and systems in place to help everybody. Working from home has become such a big reality. I think it's only going to help women going forward. Though I think it's better to be out in office where you're away from the problems of the home distracting you. But as a firm, I think most firms now, and we speak to a lot of the other partners in other firms, most firms are very, very clear about being meritocracy driven. You're going to have issues in any firm or any place that you work with, but I think the initiatives that every firm the bigger firms are doing, at least on gender diversity and helping out with issues, like suppose today you have a mental health issue. We have, apart from the online help system that we have planned, you also have an anonymous one-to-one thing with the HRs, which is outside the lawyer's scope. Like your senior partners will not be privy to it. There are a lot of initiatives. I think it's getting better by the day. There is more sensitivity around these issues, so people are taking all of this seriously. Now, I'll give you another example. The firm has just sort of deep dived into the whole insurance issue for all of its employees for Corona. So it's trying to build a culture where the person is just expected to come and give their best, and the firm is trying to do the best for everything else that they need. So I think that's across firms now, that they are trying to build this culture. But let me tell you, no matter how good or bad how much systems in place you have in a particular law firm, you will have your own individual experiences which will make it good or bad for you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thanks.
Vidushi?
Good evening, ma'am. It's great to have you on board, and I think we should really thank the Daksha team, because we've had more women leaders coming in and talking to us, which is great. My question actually has been covered by Brinda, but my follow-up question to you will be that if we are talking about the bigger law firms, isn't that a privileged section to be talking about when you're talking about gender diversity in particular and the condition of women?
300%. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything for you guys. That's definitely where let's put it this way. The change has to start somewhere, right? Why not, jahan ho raha hai, wahan appreciate karo. That's how I look at it, right? And if you look at the top law firms or the bigger law firms as the top of the strata, and you're saying that that's a elitist attitude, or so top down trickle hoga na. You're going to be trying to people should be emulating something that's good. And trust me, it's a number game. I know you don't see it now, and I can see in the chat that somebody's said that the numbers are worsening. I don't have hard data at my disposal right now, but my understanding was that women in at least national law schools are equaling the men, and the numbers will make the difference in the end. It has to, in fact. I don't see a way around it. And Vidushi, you're completely right when you say that that the gender diversity issues are faced more acutely in the non-law firm space. But if it's happening, at least there, it should continue, and hopefully it will trickle down in the other places as well. And the other places, if you mean independent practice in the courts or with council practices, I think it's only going to happen with awareness spreading, which is more, as more stuff is written about, more debates are being held like this or discussions like this. So that awareness will come in. It's already coming in everywhere. I see my council friends talk about it, that listen, I don't want only men in my chamber. And this is not a senior council, this is a council practicing in a district court in Calcutta, in the Alipur court. So you can see these small changes. It's going to take some time for it to, be visible to all of us.
Thank you
Nandini,
so
I know
much,
you have a
ma'am.
hard stop at 5:30. So Abhishek next, and then we can see if Shreya has time to ask her question.
I think I've requested my other appointment to be 5 minutes delayed.
Okay. So we have some buffer.
Yeah, 5:35 perhaps.
Okay, sure.
Good evening, ma'am. Mr. Abhishek here. I just wanted to have a sense of you. What do you think, like, the hiring would go up, like, after post-COVID, and about whether there would be an expansion to tier 2 cities as well? What is your view of it, of the tier 1 firms, if you have an insight into it, probably?
See, I'll tell you so this question about hiring, going up. Yes, right now there is a semi-hire freeze across most law firms, I would say. You guys are in the same situation where people were after the 2008 crash. The MBAs were. So yes, it's a difficult time. There's no two ways about it. I don't think there's going to be a complete stopping of hiring. There can't be. But what is going to make the difference, I think, is that people are expecting a lot of dispute practice to come in after the pandemic is over. And we see a lot of work to pick up in the litigation area. So maybe it's possible that the hiring in this particular area will be a little bit more liberal than in the other sectors, but it is going to be a tough market. There's no two ways about it. And I think tier 2 cities, I think all law firms do look at it. Ahmedabad, I won't say Hyderabad or Ahmedabad are tier 2 cities, but it's not the first choice. First choice is always Bombay, Delhi, and Bangalore, and then Calcutta, and so I think Hyderabad, Ahmedabad, these are cities that are always on the anvil for any top law firm, because you have a lot of work coming out from here. But I think the amount of investment that will go into in terms of time, effort, money, I think law firms will be a little bit more circumspect right now, maybe for another like a year or two, to go down that route. I don't see too much expansion happening in the next 1 or 2 years in tier 2 cities. But that's, this is not my firm's view. This is completely what I personally feel. If somebody feels otherwise, I'm happy to listen to a contrarian view on this.
Sure, thank you, ma'am.
So Shreya is unable to switch on her video or audio. So her question is on the chat window. I think her primary concern is do you look into where the graduate is from when you hire? Like, what is the background?
We have a dedicated team that goes to law schools for hiring. You call it day zero, right? So I have never done that. So I don't know what the team that goes into the different law schools and what they look at. What I can share with you is my personal experience of hiring. We get a lot of requests for lateral hires, which is not out of law school straight, but like, maybe second year, third year, looking for a job change. Or somebody I've given a PPO to because the internship was absolutely brilliant. So in those cases, and I'm happy to get back to you, Shreya, after speaking to the teams that go down to the law schools specifically as to what they look at resumes. Anant, will you just follow up with me on that, please, if you
Yeah,
don't
sure.
mind?
I'll do that.
From my own perspective, I think is that if you are coming as a lateral hire, not straight out of the fifth year law school or the fourth year law school, what is important to me is that, have you written something? If you have worked somewhere else, what did you work on? And if we speak to you about it in the interview, can you can you converse about that topic? Very often we see people write lengthy resumes. I did work on this, and they'll give you 20 examples. And then when you talk to them about even one of them, they have absolutely no idea. So I think some of the things that you can do when you go for a job interview is that know your resume well. You can be asked anything on the resume, know around the topic well, know the developments around the topic well. Also, if you've written and you're published, that makes some difference. I think her question also was on whether you're looking at which law firm, which law college does that make a difference? I've hired 2 students from the National Law School, Odisha, I think. One was a pre-placement of a PPO because her internship was fantastic. And then when we needed another junior in our team, we got 3 or 4 resumes. And one of them was from NLS, one was from, I think, a regular city university, and one was from Odisha, another person from National Law School, Odisha. And the Odisha CV was the one we ended up hiring over the NLS one. Simply because his interview went so well. So we asked him certain questions based on his resume, and he gave practical answers, which frankly even I hadn't thought of, which I thought was brilliant. And the NLS resume who we had interviewed, he didn't do as well, let's put it this way. He didn't know his CV well. There was no publication there. So I think all these things made the difference when I hired, and I had 3 of these resumes in front of me. So yes, National Law School tag sometimes can make a difference, but I don't think it'll, all things being equal, it may be a tipper. But if you do well in your interview, I don't think you will lose out to somebody who's gone to a better National Law School perception wise. You may get the first step into an interview because of your law school, but that's where the buck stops, I think.
More questions? Ankur, did you have a question? I saw your hand was raised.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, ma'am. I am too a resident of Calcutta and have interned with the firm before. So my question is just adding to Abhishek's point. So is the Calcutta office, so a lot of firms have pushed their hiring to next year or virtually are virtually inducting students in terms of their either internships or associate hires. So is the Calcutta office physically inducting students this year, or if not, when is it starting to induct physically?
Sorry, I can't. Is it physically inducting what?
Physically inducting hirees. So associates, if you're hiring students this year, a lot of firms are virtually inducting them.
I'm not sure what you mean by hiring students.
So your placement offers. So
you mean job offers, or do you mean internships?
Ankur, are you there? I think he is asking something relating to virtual internships. That's my interpretation of his question. I could be wrong.
Calcutta office is shut. We are going to be operating only, if we open at all, we will open only in November, December, and even then maybe not. We've officially declared for all the 4 offices that work from home is the option. You have the option of working from home till December end at least. So all the internships that happened in July and August were all online internships. The office is physically not open.
Right. So,
So,
Nandini, in fact, I have a question on that because there's a lot of concerns on the virtual internship model itself. Like,
yeah,
and we are planning our internships in April and May. I mean,
yeah.
hopefully, by then we will be able to do on-site internships. But again, it varies from firm to firm. What has been your overall personal experience as well as what you've heard from some of the other teams on how these internships are sort of
I think
going?
it's been fabulous actually. I was expecting it to be a complete disaster.
I see.
I'm not the biggest fan of this whole work from home concept or this online, everything online concept at all. But as far as the internship went, it was absolutely brilliant. Uh, I was doing one of the most important matters that I've done in the last 2, 3 years online. The hearing was online, and my intern was somebody I've not met.
Right.
I'd met him once before, just because he had happened to intern with a council who I knew, but I'd not met him before. But he was absolutely outstanding as an intern, and I think he did all the research online, sent us everything the way we wanted it to be done, was available at all points of the day for work. It was a seamless internship, I felt. Yes, the human connection is missing. That part definitely you cannot take away and you cannot substitute. But as far as the experience was concerned, it was fabulous. And I think a lot of the people who I spoke to, so one person said the internship was a disaster because the person didn't have great connectivity. So it was more an infrastructural issue for the intern, interning. And obviously, his experience or her experience would have been different if they'd been physically present in office with all the infrastructure, the books, the library, and everything. But other than that, most of the experiences were absolutely fabulous.
And then there are no issues of confidentiality and so on coming in the way.
I think that's a very good question, Anant. How we deal with it is obviously there is going to be some level of good faith. I can't, protect everything. What we do is we try and give them a secured email address where things are obviously tracked. The documents are put on clouds where you can't be sort of copying them, or if there's a print, there'll be a record of it. So we have systems in place for all of these things. No system is ever going to be foolproof if somebody really wants to do some mischief, but I'm hoping that being lawyers and being officers of the court, we will rise above that. I work on a good faith, sort of sense of belief that there won't be any breach. But we have put in systems in place for confidentiality to remain.
So I think we can take maybe one last question, and again, it's a follow-up from Nishita on the internship model itself, and in the absence of human connect, do you think that might get in the way of PPOs in particular?
Let me tell you this internship that this boy did recently this month. I am willing to give him a job today.
Oh, wow,
That's
that's great.
I have told him this, that I am willing to give you a job. I mean, 3 years or 2 years down the line, because he was just outstanding, and I would be a fool to lose out on him. But let me tell you what he did to get this kind of a feedback from me. He looked at everything. He worked on a matter which he had not studied. He hadn't done arbitration. I told him it's an arbitration brief, and he said that, ma'am, I've not read it. I said, okay, fine. He, in 2 days, had read the Arbitration Act. He had read all the sections which were relevant to the case, and I mean, maybe I think 10, 15 articles around it. I had not asked him to do any of this, right? He had looked up English commentary. He had looked up American commentary. He gave me stuff which I had never heard of. So, he was very, very, I would say his sense of reading a judgment is better than mine. And this is a boy in third year, I think. And so we discussed 10 judgments. I told him to make a list of the judgments, the summaries. You know what he did? He did that, and then he looked at what judgments those judgments had referred to, and looked up those also, and gave me a list of 20 instead of the 10. Which lawyer is not going to be happy with this kind of work?
Yeah, he's extremely proactive.
That's what I mean. And you know what? Obviously, I'm not going to trust his legal reasoning day one, right? It doesn't matter that he's done 20 things. If he's going to do it badly, it's double work for me, right? Each one of them was correct.
Wow.
I was wrong on 2 of them.
Okay.
So, I'm happy to give him a pre-placement today. So I don't think it's about online versus not. See, this whole thing about online is going to have a problem society-wise everywhere. It's not about legal internships or law or anything. It's going to be a problem everywhere. There is a reason why they say solitary confinement is the worst kind of punishment that is there, right? You cannot take away the value of human connection, teamwork, and investment in teams, team persons. My team works in cohesion because we spend that much time together. We feel for each other as family members because we spend that kind of time. It's going to be difficult to do that if you don't have that connection in the first place. But I think those are more societal issues which will have larger psychological fallouts than we are anticipating today. But I don't think you guys should be worried from an internship perspective. If you do a good job, you do a good job. It doesn't matter what's the medium. I'm coming from a place where I was completely, mind blocked against this online internship. I thought it was going to be complete crap. And in this case, that intern happened to live in Calcutta. So he offered to come to my place. He would pick up my briefs, correct them because it was all badly photocopied by the peons in the office because there was nobody to see it. He came on his own. I had not told him he was not meant to do that. He said, "No, ma'am, I insist." He came. I don't know how he came. He came. He collected the briefs, with the page numbering perfectly, dropped it all back. I mean, this is really proactiveness, and not one of this was asked of him.
Right. Wow.
I think if this is the kind of passion you can put into being proactive, you all won't have to worry.
Yeah, I urge all Daksha fellows to be equally proactive with everything they do here at the fellowship. I mean, no, this is really, I think, at the heart of doing well in whatever career that you choose, whether it's disputes or anything. I mean, we are really, really grateful to have you here, Nandini, and I think you really spoke from the heart on multiple questions that were put forth to you, and I think nothing like a very interactive.
Certain questions, or I couldn't answer certain questions, I'm happy to try and get back on those.
Sure. In fact, I will sort of coordinate that exercise as well, and hope that we can soon, when this whole pandemic sort of dies down, to get you here in Chennai as well to interact in person.
I look forward. Chennai is always a pleasure to come to.
Thank you so much.
Guys, I really had a great time speaking to you all today. And when Anant told me about what he's thinking with this law school and this concept, I was just so happy because, very often what happens is that we get law students who come to us without having any idea. It's only theory in law schools, and I hope that changes with initiatives and law schools like this. Even the basic LLB, I hope sort of changes its model to have some practical knowledge thrown in while they teach, because it makes the job easier for us when we have to work with juniors.
Hopefully that's where we are going with this whole project.
I hope so too. Okay, thank you, everybody.